Sagittarius, have you ever felt like your name was being called right in the middle of a blurry dream, or during the stillness of 3 a.m. when the whole world is quiet, but your heart starts pounding louder than ever? There's something you can't quite touch, but you feel it deeply, clearly, as if your soul just heard a whisper from the other side of an invisible wall. And if your heart has been beating fast at strange hours lately, if you've been dreaming of walking, not knowing where you're going, if signs keep showing up that you can't explain, don't dismiss them. Don't brush them away, because something sacred is reaching for you. Not to awaken your fears, but to awaken a forgotten part of your soul. If your heart is vibrating right now, if something inside you just whispered, "This is for me," then leave a small promise below. A tiny declaration that you've heard the call. It could be as simple as, "I am ready to return to myself." And from that very moment, your awakening will begin. Not with thunder, but with a quiet, steady spark that no darkness can ever put out. Because, dear Sagittarius, there are those who were born to seek the truth. But then, there are those like you who were chosen to bring that truth back to the world. And there's one thing I believe more than anything else. A soul is never awakened by accident. Awakening, whether through pain or a gentle revelation, only happens because you're ready. Ready to look back, ready to let go, ready to return. Sagittarius, you're not like other souls. You didn't come to this world to be silent. You came to give voice to the truth your soul carries. And sometimes that truth makes you so lonely you even doubt yourself. But you are not wrong. You're just ahead. I used to think courage was something loud, like battle cries on a field, like fireworks in the sky. But now I know, sometimes courage is simply saying, "Good morning," while your heart is still in pieces. And you've done that, Sagittarius. You've loved, even when love didn't return. You've trusted, even when others called you naive. You kept seeking, not to escape this world, but to understand why you were ever placed in it. And that is the sign of an awakening soul. You know, some people chase the light just to shine it on themselves. But you've carried your light through the darkest places to find those who lost themselves and quietly whisper, "I've been there. I know." Sagittarius, you don't need to become someone else, because the way you've lived, the wounds you've bandaged in silence, they've become maps for the lost to find their way back. I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm only here to help you remember what your soul has never forgotten. You are not lost. You are on a rare path, a path that only the brave dare walk. And yes, there are days when you're tired, nights when you wonder if you're living this life the right way, when everyone else finds it easy to live with lies, but you feel hurt every time you're forced to lie to yourself. I understand that, because I too have stood in between the light and the dark, and asked myself, why do I see too much? Why do I feel too deeply? Why can't I just turn back like the others? And then I realized, it's because I wasn't meant to turn back. I was meant to keep going. And so are you. If your heart is aching, if you've ever asked God, the universe, or even just yourself, why did all of this have to happen? Then this is your answer. You had to go through it so that when someone else falls into that same abyss, you can hold their hand and say, not with words, but with your presence, "I understand, and I made it back." I want you to carve this into your soul. You were not born to live a mediocre life. You didn't come here to ask permission to exist. You came to carve your own path, and then walk that path as if your wounds were a badge of victory, not a mark of failure. Maybe you've lost someone. Maybe someone who once swore they'd never leave, did leave, and it shattered you. But they weren't a loss. They were the closing of a chapter. Because the one who's truly meant for you won't ask you to dim your fire just to be loved. They'll burn with you. And if you're hearing these words, if something inside you is moving, like a silent wave, a distant echo, please pause for a moment. Take a breath and ask yourself this: what if today is the day I stop abandoning myself? I don't know everything you've been through. I don't know who made you believe that you weren't enough. But I do know this: if you were strong enough to survive the pain, you are strong enough to step into the light. No proving, no chasing, just permission. Let me invite you to do something small, but sacred. Write a commitment to yourself in the comments below. I've heard the call. And if you truly feel something is opening within you, hit like to confirm it with the universe. Because energy never lies. Because from this point on, something is beginning. Not a relationship, not an opportunity, but your awakening. You'll start to feel things shift around you. You'll receive signs, a song, a memory, a name that keeps repeating. It's not a coincidence. It's a bell, a calling for your soul to come home. And I want you to remember this. Your soul does not need to be perfect to be loved. It only needs you to stay. There's still something important waiting for you. A place where everything you've ever given is now making its way back to you. Not as a reward, but as a divine balancing you planted long, long ago. And you know what? The fire within you has never gone out. It's just been waiting for you to return. There's a truth I deeply believe in. We don't need to learn how to become ourselves. We only need to remember. And that remembering isn't always gentle. It doesn't arrive on soft morning breezes. It comes through long, lonely nights when you sit with yourself, alone, with no one left to blame. Dear Sagittarius, you've come too far to turn back now. You've walked through broken dreams, toxic relationships, and all the times you shrank yourself just to be loved. Only to realize, no love can truly heal you except the love you give to yourself. I used to think freedom meant going everywhere, but after all these years I've learned, true freedom is being able to stay inside yourself without feeling lost. How many times have you tried to reshape yourself just to fit into a world that was too small for the vastness of your soul? How many times did you dim your light so others wouldn't call you too much, too idealistic, too different? But you weren't born to fit in. You tried to shrink yourself so others could be comfortable. You forced smiles while your spirit cried inside. And then you remembered, you were born to expand. There was once a question that kept me silent for years. What if I am myself and no one loves me for it? I know you've asked that question too, because Sagittarius souls often begin their journey with hearts wide open and end up wounded from trusting the wrong ones. But you know what? Your wound does not make you less. The way you healed, quietly, gracefully, is exactly what makes you extraordinary. The journey back to your true self is not a spiritual vacation. It's the peeling away of every false identity you once wore to survive. It's when you can finally look in the mirror and say, I've been wrong before, but I am still worthy of love. Do you want to know the greatest lesson I've ever learned? Not everyone wants to see you healed. Some people need you to keep blaming yourself just so they can feel better about themselves. But Sagittarius, healing is an act of rebellion. It's when you stop playing the victim. It's when you stop begging for love and start creating it. I've witnessed the strongest people are not the ones who never cry. They're the ones who cry without shame. The ones who say, I'm hurting without fear of being seen as weak. And if today you find yourself in the middle of chaos, if it feels like everything is falling apart, please remember this. The breakdown of the ego is not the end. It's the sign you are about to touch the truth of your soul. We live in a world that teaches us how to succeed, but rarely how to be honest with ourselves. And maybe you've gotten really good at hiding things. Your smile, your optimism, your philosophy on life. But when the night comes, there is only you, the version of you longing for something deeper than comfort words. Dear Sagittarius, I am not here to lead you into the light. I am here to remind you that light has always been within you. You don't need to find your worth in someone else's eyes. Your worth isn't in what you prove. It's in your willingness to live honestly, even if the price is temporary loneliness. If this part makes your throat tighten, if your heart is quietly aching like it just remembered something it forgot long ago, then leave a small promise below. I'm finding my way back. That one line might be the moment your soul knows you've finally returned. And from here, something important is beginning. You've begun to see clearly what's real and what was crafted just to keep you comfortable. You can no longer bear shallow conversations. You no longer stay in relationships that ask you to shrink yourself. You no longer play the role of the positive one just to hide the truth that you too need to be held sometimes. I once heard someone say, we're not just healing for ourselves. We're healing for an entire generation that was taught to stay silent when all they wanted was to cry. And that is the truth. Every step you take toward your authentic self is a light switched on for someone else to follow. You're not just living for you, you're living as a testimony, a living proof that someone who was deceived can still choose honesty, someone who was abandoned can still choose to love, someone who was underestimated can still become the light. So Sagittarius, stop hiding. Don't wear your wisdom as a shield anymore. Step out and live, not perfectly, not to please anyone, just truthfully. And before I go on, let me leave you with something that might just change the way you walk forward from here. You don't need to be understood to have worth. You just need to be claimed by yourself. If these words have touched something in you, share with me. What is starting to move inside you? What are you letting go of to come back to yourself? Let the comment section become a place of sacred vows, a quiet promise between you and your soul. Because from here, we're about to speak of something you've always carried, even if you've forgotten it for a while. Your innate gift, the sacred mission you were entrusted with before you ever learned to speak. Are you ready to see it? Dear Sagittarius, maybe you've always thought of yourself as just someone who loves freedom, someone who loves to explore. But did you know, behind that free spirit is a soul equipped with a rare treasure? A treasure not found in possessions, not in fame, but in your ability to illuminate truth in the middle of darkness. Your first innate gift is the power to move hearts with truth. You don't just say what others are afraid to say. You say it in a way that makes people stop, listen, and feel. Think back. How many times have you sparked a conversation and suddenly everyone goes quiet to hear you? How many times did you say something simple, only to see someone burst into tears because they felt seen? That wasn't coincidence. That was truth passing through you, and you were chosen to bring it into this world with your voice. I once met a Sagittarius who worked a very ordinary job, a long-haul truck driver. And he said to me, "You know, sometimes I park somewhere, write a few thoughts, and post them on Facebook, and people started messaging me, telling me my words helped them climb out of depression." And I cried, because you see, you don't have to be a speaker or a writer or a spiritual teacher to reach others. You just have to be you, honest, tender, and real. Your second gift is seeing hope even in broken places. Maybe you were the only one in your family who ever stood up and said, "We need to heal." Maybe you were the child caught in the middle of a broken marriage, but still believed that love was real. Maybe you were the one in your group of friends who always kept everyone connected, the one who made the jokes, lifted the energy, even when you were exhausted inside. I know, because your gift is helping others believe in light when they've lived too long in the dark. And you don't just carry the power to heal others, you also carry the power to heal yourself through a philosophy of life that is uniquely your own. When others fall, they wait for someone to save them. But you ask, what am I supposed to learn from this? That's a rare trait. A soul who not only lives, but observes, absorbs, and documents, as if you were writing a soul journal across lifetimes. And maybe you haven't realized this yet. You are a source of life-giving inspiration. Someone once changed their major because of something you said. Someone left a toxic relationship just because you asked, "Are you truly happy?" And maybe you don't remember saying these things, but they do. I've said before, Sagittarius is not just a traveler. You are a guide, not with maps, but with the light in your heart. And where does that light come from? From everything you've been through. Have you ever felt like you were the different one in the family? Like you never quite fit? You didn't want to live the way others expected. You preferred asking why over asking, "What should I do?" Let me tell you something. That's not rebellion. That's the soul of someone who is entrusted with a mission to expand limits, both within themselves and in the world around them. The world needs people like you, Sagittarius, not to tell others how to live their lives the right way, but to remind them we can live true to ourselves and still be worthy of love. Have you ever helped someone return to their art? Encouraged someone to pursue a dream they had locked away in a drawer for years? Inspired someone who thought they were too late to try again? If you have, share it with me in the comments, because I believe the things you once gave away so casually may have actually saved someone at the exact moment they thought their road had ended. And now, your final but no less powerful gift, your ability to connect heaven and earth. Maybe you love nature. Maybe you've sat alone and found yourself crying at a sunset. Maybe you've felt that a tree had a soul. Maybe you've had a dream and later it came true. All of those things point to one truth. You are a bridge between the visible and the invisible, between what's taught and what is already known in the heart. So if you've ever been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too strange, or too much, please don't change. Because maybe that very sensitivity is the one thing that has kept humanity alive in a world growing colder every day. And I say this with deep respect. This world needs you. It needs truth tellers. It needs question askers. It needs people who can open new perspectives, not to win, but to help others touch deepest part of their own humanity. And if you've made it this far, if your heart is softly vibrating, if you're thinking about something you once loved but left behind, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to return to it. Tell me in the comments, what do you feel is your greatest innate gift? Are you willing to reopen a door you once closed, just because someone made you doubt yourself? Because from this point on, we're entering a sacred space. A part of your journey where healing becomes more than personal. It becomes global. Are you ready to step into the final part of this path? The part where you no longer have to do anything. You only need to be. And let your light naturally ripple outward. There's something you may have never realized, Sagittarius. You haven't just healed yourself. You've been healing others too. The ones who never said a word. They may not have sent a thank you message. They may never mention that they once read something you posted, watched a video you shared, or heard a single sentence you casually spoke in a coffee shop years ago. But it stayed with them, and it quietly changed something. I once witnessed a Sagittarius girl say just one sentence to her friend, "You know, you could live a different life." At first, her friend smiled politely, but a week later, she ended a 3-year toxic relationship. No theory, no workshop, just one sentence, spoken from the heart of someone who had walked through the dark. Healing isn't always grand gestures. Sometimes it's the way you look at someone, in a way that reminds them they still deserve to be seen. You've done that. Maybe you don't remember, but their soul does. You inspire others, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. You've fallen, you've gotten back up, and you never tried to hide the scars. You said, "I'm still learning." And that gave someone else permission to not be perfect either, and still believe they deserve a beautiful life. So I want you to look back for a moment. Who once messaged you saying, "Thank you for being there"? Who told you, "If it weren't for you, I don't know if I would have made it"? That's the magic you've created without waving any wands. That's the kind of healing that comes from simply being there. And only those who've once been broken and stood back up can offer that kind of presence. If someone once said these words to you, share it with me. Write their name or tell a short story. Because maybe someone reading this will realize they too once made that kind of difference. There's something very special that happens when a Sagittarius truly begins to heal. You become dangerous to darkness, not because you fight it, but because you're no longer afraid of it. You begin walking not to escape, but to return. You stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and instead start asking, "Does this deserve the light inside me?" And the strange thing is, when you believe in your own light, that light begins to ripple outward like waves. It touches your family. It touches your friends. It even changes how others behave just by standing near you. Because you're no longer someone who lives in fear. You are someone who walks in faith. Faith doesn't mean believing everything will go your way. Faith means believing that no matter where life throws you, you'll still find the light within. I once met a Sagittarius man who had lost everything: his job, his marriage, his trust in people. But when I asked him, "Do you have regrets?" he smiled and said, "No, because I found something I'd lost a long time ago, myself." My dear friend, you're not just living for yourself, you are a torch for other souls. And you don't need to strive to be that. You just need to be present, trust, and live true to what you know is real. If you've read this far, if something in your heart just opened ever so slightly, tell me in the comments. What are you beginning to believe in again? In love? In yourself? In something you thought was long dead inside you? And now I want to invite you yes, you, to do something small. You don't need to prepare anything, just one deep breath and one quiet moment. Close your eyes, place one hand over your chest and the other over your belly. Feel your breath and listen for that whisper inside. Are you still there? And if the answer is yes, then you already know. You were never truly lost. You simply took a detour, fell asleep for a while, or wandered far from your light. Today, I invite you to return, not return to the world, but return to your soul. If you feel called, leave a commitment in the comments. It doesn't have to be long. It only has to be true. Maybe it's, I choose to live with an open heart, or I've returned without asking permission, or simply, I'm still here. I still believe. And when you write it down, the universe will listen. Your soul will take note, and the next door will open, not by force, but by light. I know, maybe part of you still doubts, still wonders if you're truly ready. But remember this, no one walks into the light because they're perfect. They walk into it because they no longer want to live in the dark. And if anyone has ever asked you, why do you still believe in goodness after everything you've been through? Smile and say, because I'm a Sagittarius. I didn't come here to hide. I came here to light the way. Dear Sagittarius, you've walked with me all the way to the end. And if you're still here, then it's not by accident. It's a confirmation that your soul is ready. Ready to live a life no longer built on fear. Ready to be yourself without asking for permission. Ready to love without losing yourself again. You don't need another sign. The universe has already given you everything through this message. What happens next is up to you. Will you rise? Will you choose yourself again, and this time, not retreat? Because here's the truth. Real healing doesn't mean waiting until the pain is gone. It means knowing you're still hurting, but choosing to live with love anyway. So if you're ready, turn this feeling into action. Leave a sacred commitment in the comments. Don't just scroll past like someone who reads and forgets. Rise like a soul awakening. Write something small, something real. I choose myself. I have returned. My light no longer goes out. Or whatever truth is alive in you today. And if this reading touched you, share it with someone who might be praying for a sign too. Because maybe you are the very hand they've been hoping for. You weren't just born to find the light. You were born to carry it into the world. And that journey begins right now, right here, this very moment. Are you ready?